With all this in mind, Josh Harris and David Blitzer had been setting out to construct an exclusive arena since they purchased the team, even while major updates were made to the Wells Fargo Center in 2019 and 2020. The two's first serious proposal came in the fall of that latter year, when they revealed a plan for a new arena on the Delaware riverfront at Penn's Landing, east of downtown Philadelphia. Details of the arena itself were limited, but Blitzer and Harris planned to use a nuanced form of public financing to build what would be a privately owned and operated arena. If approved, the construction would be funded by a state-issued Neighborhood Improvement Zone, or NIZ, where future tax revenues would be used to pay the city and state back for issuing bonds up front. This is similar to how Nashville and the Tennessee Titans are financing their new stadium, where the only taxpayer money being used is tax revenue generated by the project itself after it's completed. However, while efforts by Harris and Blitzer were hailed for creating jobs and opportunities for minority-owned businesses, this came at a time where the tide had already been turning across the country politically against any form of public assistance for sports arenas and stadiums. And so, regardless of the two taking advantage of an already existing state-level program, the project was blown up in local media for its use of taxpayer financing and was dismissed by other public officials as the city of Philadelphia was already cash-strapped. The nonprofit Delaware River Waterfront Corp., who was managing redevelopment efforts, wanted the riverfront to be primarily park space and mixed-use development available to the public, and given there were only 8 acres of land available, a privately owned arena just wouldn't contribute to the corporation's overall goals like they would want it to. And ultimately, a developer based out of New York City was chosen to build a $2 billion project over 8 years that would construct a park, hotel, apartments, and other mixed-use space. After this announcement, Harris and Blitzer went back to the drawing board, this time spinning off a development corporation whose sole priority was getting the Sixers a new arena. The company, called 76 Dev Corp., will be spearheaded by local apartment developer and founder of the private equity firm Darko Capital, David Edelman, and had consultants from stadium designers, engineers, builders, and other developers on its payroll. Edelman pivoted the team's focus to downtown Philadelphia, who back in the early 2020s was still recovering from pandemic-induced economic setbacks to its core. There was one site in particular that had just about everything you could ask for, and whose current occupier had been irreversibly sunk by COVID. It was in the heart of downtown, a block from the convention center, was right on top of a prime subway station, a block away from a key train station, was connected to a garage with convenient access to the busiest interstate in the world, and was right in the center of the nightlife scene in Philadelphia. The site in question was the Fashion District Philadelphia, the city's main downtown mall, who over the years had failed, been slated for redevelopment, then a new owner would try to resurrect it as a mall again, before starting the cycle all over. After playing this game again and again, many of the mall's tenants failed to return after the pandemic, and the various owners of the property surmised that building an arena on the site was, quote, the natural evolution, despite pouring $300 million into a 2019 renovation. 76 Dev Corp. Announced their plan to build a new arena, called 76 Place at Market East, at the Fashion District site in July of 2022. The cost would be privately financed by the group at an estimated $1.3 billion, which included the arena and an apartment tower. The new venue would have a capacity 10% less than the Wells Fargo Center, at 18,500 seats. As Cinderella's glass slipper as the situation might seem, other teams, namely the Philadelphia Phillies, have tried building downtown stadiums in the past, only to face vocal and fierce opposition from Chinatown, with whom the Fashion District borders. Community leaders came out in fierce opposition to this project as well, citing Capital One Arena in the Chinatown neighborhood in Washington, D.C., as an example of how the neighborhood's identity got stripped away after the arena was built. 76 Dev Corp vowed to complete a public benefits agreement with the neighborhood, but after months of closed-door meetings with local leaders, they failed to make any progress, and instead, 40 separate businesses, nonprofits, and other organizations united to form the Chinatown Coalition to oppose the arena, who are receiving funding and support from national civil rights organizations, and have held rallies with local and state officials to vocally act in defiance. Protests then began to dominate city council meetings, with key meetings to discuss issues related to the project needing to be postponed due to outbursts by protesters. Howard Eskin, a local radio commentator, also called out the project, saying that given the area's high crime and limited parking, there simply isn't the infrastructure to support an arena, and more fans are likely to be turned off by the location than they are currently in South Philadelphia. A study by the University of Washington concluded that the new arena would likely decrease tax revenues for the city and state compared to the Fashion District, once again due to people being turned off by the presence of the arena because of congestion and increase in activity in the area, saying further that those who attend the venue are more likely to take advantage of concessions, restaurants, and bars within the arena itself than to visit businesses within the neighborhood, or at least until new, more upscale options replace the current ones, not to mention the impact to businesses during construction. Finally, Sam Katz, who unsuccessfully ran for mayor in 1999 and 2003, says that most downtown arenas actually aren't profitable, which is why despite a firm commitment from the 76 Dev Corp to privately finance, he suspects they're going to request some portion of the project have a public contribution anyway, on top of the city having to upgrade the subway station and other infrastructure to support the arena. Citing these concerns and the original complaints with the complex in South Philadelphia, in February 2024, Comcast Spectacor unveiled their plan to reimagine their property, including renovation of existing event and hospitality spaces, namely Xfinity Live, the addition of a 250-room hotel, 6,000-seat concert venue, retail and restaurant space, 2,100 apartments, and parking garages. When asked for comment, 76 Dev Corp said they had no involvement in the plans and were fully committed to 76 Place. Later that same year, Wells Fargo announced that they would not renew their naming rights deal, leaving Comcast Spectacor on the hook for finding a new naming rights sponsor, as its most lucrative tenant was committed to leaving the venue. After the South Philadelphia Revitalization Project was unveiled, Axios Philadelphia found that 81% of respondents preferred Comcast Spectacor's redesign of the complex over the Sixers' new arena plans at 76 Place.